Another episode of Tea with Z. A super early episode this morning, leading into, I guess, the busy time of the year. I'm coming to you bright and early. Maybe you're having a cuppa, maybe you're having a coffee at the moment, maybe you're still in bed. Who knows? I'm not too sure. But in Queensland, I know we're an hour behind the rest of many of the eastern states, or a lot, I guess, when it comes to daylight savings, we're pretty much the exception to the rule in Australia. But wherever you are, give me a like, give me a heart, give me a shout out, drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know where you're watching from, because I know there's, talking about time zones, there's people from all over the world that are watching this at the moment. And big heartfelt shout out to each and every one of you that do join me each and every morning, or even just some mornings, or just on the occasion when you can, because I appreciate that. Getting up, trying to stick to a time, and life gets in the way and things jump on. I guess when these episodes do come out, and as a result, you've got other things to do, and I totally appreciate that. But that's the beauty of technology, and that's why there are always replays available, so you can jump back and watch any of these episodes. And a really easy way to find them is to join the Limitless Network. So the Limitless Network, as you know, is a group of like-minded people that value health in any way, shape, or form. And all the videos are on here, including exclusive content that comes every Friday. So we post an episode of Tea with C, and we'll be doing one tomorrow featuring some very special guests in the lead up to Christmas. So check out that episode in the Limitless Network tomorrow, and the details are in the description box below. And so for today's episode, we've been talking this week a lot about, the lead up to Christmas, the lead up to, I guess, what is for many the busiest time of the year, and as the song goes, the most wonderful time of the year. But for some people, they're not feeling the love. They're not feeling that this is the most wonderful time of the year because of all of the uncertainty, anxiety, frustrations, fears that is happening right now. And as a result of that, this for them might not be the most wonderful time of the year, both as a consumer, but also as a patient as well. But on the other side of that, as a healthpreneur, as somebody that is driving that business, and that's why yesterday's episode we covered off, what it's like, I guess, a little bit behind the scenes of being a healthpreneur, running a health business, and the challenges and issues that we're facing to try and deliver the ultimate service to you as patients. And when you, I guess, couple that with all of the fear and the language that's getting marketed to us and portrayed to us in our media, today I really wanted to take the time to, touch on the impact of our language. And I was watching the news this morning, and and I was reading some articles, and we're frequently given this term restrictions. We're facing new restrictions. We're facing, this mask restriction. We're facing restrictions on venues. We're facing restrictions on capacity. We're facing restrictions on this and that. But I really wanted just to take it, just to the most basic level of restrictions on what I would call, or the marketed version of restrictions on personal protective equipment. So whether that's masks, whether that's, for even in a healthcare setting, we're wearing goggles, wearing face shields, some are wearing gowns. And when you look at that from a health perspective, even out of the healthcare industry, well, what is the definition of restriction? The definition of restriction is a limiting condition or measure, particularly when it's a legal one, but it's derived from the Latin word restringere. So, and sorry for that little mispronunciation, but restringere, which means to bind fast or confine. And that's the origin of it. Then it, formed, I guess, from the English, Old French sort of version, which was restrict, and then went to Middle English, which is restriction. And today, then, as I mentioned, restriction means a limiting condition or measure, particularly when there's a legal one enforced. Now, when you look at that definition and you apply that to other forms of I guess, other forms of what would be perceived to be a restriction based on what media is telling us right now. But put your mindset in that of a construction site. You've driven past a construction site and you see these workers with a hard hat on. They're entering their workplace with a hard hat on. Now, would you call that a restriction? Would you call wearing that hard hat as a construction worker into their workplace a restriction? Or would you call that a safety measure? And what are the underlying connotations to that then? Is the word restriction, what does that make you feel like? Confined, trapped, dictated to. Whereas a safety measure, something that supports me, supports my own health and well-being. And so these are the two different elements, I guess, that we're being portrayed to. Restrictions, negative, confining, disparaging, overbearing, really, really negative. And then on the flip side, you've got, well, wait a minute, I'm entering a construction site. I've got to wear my hard hat. It's a safety measure. It's done to protect you. It's done to ensure that your own health and well-being is our priority. And so where does the difference lie then? Why in our media are we using these terms like restrictions for things that are in fact personal protective equipment designed to enhance our health? And when you look at this in so many different industries, the mask, for example, I've spoken about the hard hat in the construction industry. We just had our house, we just had some of our homes our home pest controlled. And as a result of that, the technician was wearing a mask. The technician was wearing a mask. Who made him wear a mask? I certainly didn't. The government certainly didn't. But he himself saw the value in it and wore that mask to protect himself as an enhanced safety measure. Similarly, if they go and knock down a wall and there's asbestos or there's fiber, they're wearing a mask. Similarly, if I'm working in a lab or whatever and I'm poring over some results that I could inhale, I'm wearing a mask. These are personal protective equipment. And so why is the media not portraying it as such? Why is the media portraying this as a restriction, as a confinement, as a binding measure that is negative, rather than using terminology that helps to influence others to embrace a decision that is ultimately positive for their own health and well-being? And there's a lot of, controversy and a lot of, I guess, thoughts and opinions about how effective masks are. But to me, in my opinion, the minimum effectiveness for me is just to remind people that we're still living in a pandemic, that there is a physical reminder on us that goes, oh, wait a minute, that we're in a pandemic. We're in a highly transmittable, infectious state of events at the moment that can have underlying health consequences to other people and more vulnerable sectors of our community. And so when you wear PPE, it's not just about personal protective equipment. To me, it's about person protective equipment, not person protective equipment. Because we're all human at the end of the day. And it's about not just protecting ourselves, but it's about making others aware of their own situation as well and protecting others as well. So, but like I mentioned before, is why are we getting portrayed, or why is it being portrayed that this is such an overly negative thing? In some parts of the world, this is normal. This is normal. If you've traveled to any parts of Asia, well pre-pandemic, where there's polluted environments and things like that, this is their daily. Wearing a mask for them is to ensure their integrity of what they're breathing in is actually safe because they're living in polluted environments. And so my question to you is, are you actually facing restrictions? Or are you facing measures that are designed to enhance your personal safety? Your personal safety and your personal well-being. And I just really wanted to cover off mainly around personal protective equipment. I don't really want to deep dive into or explore. Of course, we're seeing now a lot of frustration where businesses are closing, they're opening, they're closing, they're opening. And look, I know my heart goes out to you, because to me, that's an extremely precarious situation, particularly around now. And we're now moving into this new state of living with this virus. But, when you're going and changing the rules and the benchmarks each and every day, and this is what's driving this uncertainty, is where we just keep changing the goalposts. We keep speculating about what's going to be happening. And this is a big shout out to the leaders that need to provide certainty, particularly in these uncertain times. And that's what we've seen in these past couple of years is when we look at, our state-run politics and things like that, and our politicians within each state, every messaging is different. Every messaging is different. And I frequently am traveling near the border with our southern states and constantly having to check what the differences are between our states and what is required and what isn't. And it becomes extremely confusing because at the end of the day, are we not just one nation, one people, one community? And yet we've got all this disparaging commentary around it. And I guess commentary that is extremely confusing. And with that confusion comes uncertainty, comes fear, comes anxiety. But the impact of our language and the underlying messaging of our language, promoting restriction, promoting, confinement, promoting negativity is not helping, So my take out for you is, what is the language that you're using with your patients? What is the language that you're using with your team? As a healthpreneur, are you seeing this as a safety measure or are you seeing this as a restriction? And then what's the underlying messaging to your team about that? Because like I said, you put on a hard hat to walk into a construction site. Do you see that as a restriction or do you see that as a safety measure? You put on a mask before you go and spray pests in a home. Do you see that as a restriction or a safety measure? So now you put on a mask before you go out and interact with people and unknowingly potentially COVID positive. Do you see that as a restriction or as a safety measure? And so I'll let you be the judge. But to me, a restriction, like I've said, coming from a place of negativity, safety from a level of positivity, support, well-being. You be the judge. And so, yeah, just wanted to bring that up because at the end of the day, if there's underlying messaging, then we're fueling an underlying message. And if we're fueling an underlying message, if that's positive or negative, that's what's going to resonate and come out. So that's it from me today. I really just wanted to touch on that, the impact of our language. Because as we're moving closer to this Christmas and we're seeing a lot of frustration right now, a lot of uncertainty. But if we start to look at it and go, well, wait a minute, and listen to what the media, because the media at the end of the day is going to fuel a narrative, right? And is going to fuel a story to drive interest, to drive tension, to drive engagement, because that's what glues you to the TV. That's what glues you to the TV, to the radio, whatever, is a sense of fear. Oh my God, I need to check that. Or I need to alleviate my worries. What's happening? And so my question for you is, how can you flip that script? How can you take what they're saying and go, wait a minute, I know what they're doing, but how can I flip that script? And so that's what I wanted to leave you today with, just a thought and just some awareness and maybe something that you haven't considered as we do move into this really, really busy period. But I know that there's frustrations out there, and I hear it and I see it. And especially running a small business, regardless of whatever business you're in, hospitality, healthcare, whatever it might be. Yeah, definitely there's a lot of uncertainty around, but I hope that with this level of uncertainty, that our leaders give us some certainty very, very soon with what we can do and how we can persevere. So that's it from me today. I really wanted to touch on today the impact of language. And are we being forced to restrict, to confine, or are we being promoted to enhance our safety and well-being? So that's it from me today. Have an absolutely amazing day. And wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay well, And I look forward to catching up with you in an episode of Tea with Z exclusively in the Limitless Network. And feel free, drop your comments below. Give me your thoughts. Do you see this like this, or do you see it completely other way? Because at the end of the day, conversation drives interaction and interaction drives conversation. And that's it from me today. Have an amazing day and catch you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.